So, Khan, first of all, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to do this. And I thought maybe we could start by you sharing a little bit about the unexpected situation that you found yourself in when you got engaged to Shal, which was, I think you've just told me, it was just over 2 decades ago.
Yeah, so I was living in Israel. I grew up in Israel, and I was actually looking to go see family, to go and spend some time with my family in America. And I couldn't get, my parents didn't really want me to go because I have a big non-Jewish and secular family, and they wanted to protect me from any too much exposure, I suppose. So I couldn't, and I couldn't get together with a ticket because I spend my money before I make it. Anyways, but so it just happened to be a friend of mine. I had a friend who did a lot of nanny in abroad, and she got a call that there's a family in London who the mom's not well and they're looking for a nanny, and she didn't want to take it because she didn't like that the mother was. They said she's quite sick, and she didn't want to take on such a situation. So she said, so her mom called me and said, "Khan, why don't you do that? You know, you're good with kids. You have experience with this, so why don't you take the job? It'll get you at least halfway to America, and then you hopefully make a bit of, you know, make enough money to get to the other side." So I thought, okay, that sounds good. So that's why I ended up in London and took this say job on. I was supposed to stay for 6 months. I ended up staying for a year. I was there for 8 months while Ilana, Shah's wife, was not well. They had 4 kids, ages 2, 4, 6, and 8 when I was there. And then the mom passed away 8 months later, and then they asked me to stay on. We stayed on 4 more. I stayed on for another 4 months. During those 4 months, because I was kind of looking after the kids and kind of with Shal, who I was working for, I guess we got a little bit, you know, close, you could say, not in a
Inappropriate way.
in a very natural way. And until his wife passed away, I didn't really have anything to do with him because he was not really ever around. He was quite a busy kind of guy who's never home. And then after his wife passed away, he was around more because he started to kind of be more involved with the kids. So then we just had to interact more. And then actually after 4 months, my husband's, now he's my husband, but at the time Shal said, Chana, you have to leave because if you don't leave, we're going to end up getting married, and that's going to be a disaster for you. And just don't want that to happen. And I don't want to do that to you. And, but you can't stay here because it's just kind of starting to be, you know, I guess, you know, he started feeling a little bit close to me maybe. So it wasn't really where I was at. I was a little bit more like I'm not marrying you. You're like so old and you have so many kids. Like that was not my agenda at all.
How much older than you was he, if you don't mind me asking?
16 years older than me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He was quite a lot older than me. I was 18 at the time.
Yes.
And he was, you know, 34. And so it was a big age gap, and it was not even a question. Like in my mind, it was like it was a very funny comment, you know, like, yeah, very funny. Like I'll go, but I'm not marrying you either way. And so then it was hard to go. It was hard to leave because I actually had a really nice relationship with the kids, and you know, I enjoyed my job and my time with the family. And then I left. And then, you know, Shal started dating. I just kind of did my own thing and got on with my life. But somehow we just kept, you know, he tried to kind of move on and make a life for him, you know, move on with life and maybe meet someone. But kind of just happened. It just happened. About a year later, we got engaged. He got engaged in between. He broke it off. And then about maybe 10 months later, he called me and he said, will you consider going out with me? So I was like, yeah, I guess, you know, we could try.
Yes.
then he came to Israel, and we kind of, you could say, dated. We knew each other quite well. We didn't need a date, but it just kind of just happened, and then yeah. So that's the long answer to your question, but that's how I ended up here.
So I really appreciate that, and it just reminds me of when we say that Hashem puts the refuah before the makkah. The refuah's there, and it's almost like He'd put that refuah in. I'm sure if we saw the tapestry of the hashgacha, that you ended up being the person in the house, you were always going to become part of this family, and no one knew it at the time. So it's a beautiful story in a way. So Han, what about the did you experience like judgment? I've heard people say that for the person coming into the home and the marriage, and seemingly a lot of people are raw and feeling that loss and feeling all this person's replacing that person. There can be a lot of judgment that a new person coming into this family feels. I think that's quite common. Did you experience that?
Yeah, so it was really, I would say it was quite difficult. Okay, first of all, like I said, everyone's experience is so different, but ours was, there was practically, it was so unusual. I was really young. By the time I got engaged, I was just 20, because Shal really waited almost that I'll not be a teenager, so I'll just have my birthday kind of thing. And for his side, he had crazy amount of judgment. I mean, people thought he lost his mind, that he's infatuated, and they when we got engaged, they did, so many people did everything in their power to try to stop him. Really, there was a lot of pressure. I was lucky. I think it was much harder for Shal, because he wasn't sure if he is or isn't infatuated. In a way, he wasn't sure if he's caught up or not,
Yes.
So in a way, he was more scared, of what he was doing, because he wanted to marry me, but he also, rationally, it didn't make sense, and it looked wrong, and it looked so kind of not right.
Yes.
Also, his wife was 30 when she passed away, and she was kind of a, mature and
Mm-hmm.
established, and I'm this little, kind of, in a way, this kid. But so for him, it was very difficult, and people really were, I think, very mean, in terms of, they come from a good place, I suppose, and they cared about him, but they really did. He fell out with his best friend. His best friend, didn't really speak to him really ever since. His late wife's family had a really hard time with it. So people gave him a lot of heartache about it. And I actually, for me, I had a very different reaction. My parents were very supportive. So I've always had massive support from my parents. There's never any problem there in my family. My friends, everyone were very supportive. They just thought I was like a bit crazy, but they didn't. Some people came up to me and, Chana, don't do it. What you're doing, it's so complicated. Why are you doing this to yourself? You're gonna regret it. And stepkids, and like, he's so old, and why are you moving out of Israel? Like, so there were people who more from they just cared about me wanting to try to protect me to not marry him. But I was I knew, I lived with Shaul and his wife, so I knew them. I knew what kind of people they are, and I knew what I'm marrying, or kind of
Yes.
what I'm getting myself into. And yes, I knew, of course, I don't know the road ahead, but I also wasn't afraid of the road ahead, and I wasn't at all intimidated by it or worried about it. It kind of fell into place, and I just followed a feeling. Really, it just made sense. And my Shal would call me so many times during the engagement. So many people tried to break it off and put a lot of pressure. And so really my engagement period was like, we may get married, we may not. And I was a little bit more like I'm okay either way kind of thing. Well, hopefully we get married, but if we don't, well, that's okay, because what am I going to do about it? So I was very blessed, actually, to be very I was involved but not so invested.
Yes.
And yeah, once we got married, it settled a little bit. There were people who didn't speak to us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people who really, I always feel till today, such a gratitude to every person that reached out to me, that was kind to me. It's so difficult to move into a new family and kind of a new dynamic, and there's just so much emotion and so much thinking around the whole thing, that when people reached out, friends of Charles' late wife and friends of Charles, they reached out with kindness. It meant so much to me. It was such a huge gift that they gave me. Every little tiny gestures of nothing, just little tiny things of just trust and love and kindness and a welcoming was so meaningful to me and really helped me. So I always feel, and I remember till now all those interactions, because they really supported me in a time that was it wasn't so easy to make the adjustment, you know.
Well, I think that for anybody listening to this, there's almost two takeaways from what you just said. The one was that the support that we are able to give, because sometimes people think these things, but will hold back from saying them, means so much to the person who's coming into this family, so that those kind of gestures of acceptance and gratitude and, for that, I think that's a big deal. And the other part is that to know that people go through grief and loss in different ways, and that it's not personal, their judgment or their lack of welcoming or their fear. It's almost like they feel that they're being helpful, and you can't take it to heart. And I guess you've got to have confidence. And I'm sure Charles found a place in himself where, this is the right thing for me, even if people that I love can't see it and aren't going to be happy for it. Kind of follow your own heart. And that's what you guys were able to do in spite of a lot of the noise. And I think what I have heard of Wawa Jacobson, Rubenstein actually said to me, he got married 9 months after his wife passed away, and his wife told him 3 days before she died, he told me, I think he said this publicly, who he should marry, and that she should get married and who he should marry. And he still said people could not accept it. His wife told him, and people could not accept it. And I just think it's a natural part of human beings, sometimes difficult to move on. And sometimes actually the people who go through the tragedy move on quicker than other people. They say when Rabbi Akiva was being flayed alive and being tortured, the angel said, like, Zu Torah, V'zu Shchara, this is Torah and this is the reward. They couldn't accept it, and the people around on the ground couldn't accept it. But Rabbi Akiva said, yes, because now I can say Shema Yisrael. Sometimes the people who are actually going through it or closer to it actually move on a little bit, move forward quicker than some people around them. So, so that's...
I really think so. I mean, it's funny because even in our situation, I mean, and I don't kind of take this so literally or make anything of it, but a couple of different friends of Charles' late wife would say, oh, she knew you, she said he should marry you and things like that. They try to, say these things to, and whether it's true or not, it's like, it doesn't really matter, but it is true that, people, that grieve, I was thinking about it, Terry. It's like, I have 12 siblings and I love all of them. There's so much room. I could love all of them, like all these siblings, and all of them mean a lot to me and matter to me, and I hold close in my heart. And I think children, we have 8 children, and you could love all of them, and all of them hold a very special and dear place in your heart. And you have friends, and you have all these people in your life that you meet, that you just love them, and you share all this love. Yes. And then there's this funny idea of, well, with a wife, you can only share one only room in the heart for one, and it's like, who said we could love siblings? We could love 2 parents.
Yes.
We could love a mom and a dad really deeply. And then it's like, but a wife, there's some misconception of there's a loyalty or there's somehow you can make room for anyone else. Because what I know is Shaul loved his wife, because I was in the house. I saw a love. There was a deep love. There was a really special love. I've never seen a couple before I came to their house. I've never seen such a beautiful home, actually. There was so much love and there was so much softness. And it was a beautiful home, home, and beautiful kids. Like, it was such a special home. And so, but then it's like he had more room for more love. And it wasn't just only one specific way and one specific person. And I think that that's quite beautiful, that we could grieve and we could love another person. And then, but everybody has that little special place in our heart that is part of that whole big collection of different love. So,
That's
and it's
beautiful.
why, gone.
No, I love that. Carry on. I think that's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
so
and
true.
and 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 I was really, really, I don't know why, but I was really clear on that when we got married. And to me, I came in with that understanding, like there's room for everybody. And
Mhm.
so, and it really helped me that I had that clarity, because I was never threatened by my kids' love for their mom. I was not threatened by Charles' love for his late wife. I wasn't. I understood people's protectiveness of love. I get it, but I knew, like I could love my kids even though they're not my biological kids. I could deeply love them because
Yes.
I'm someone who's loving. I love many people. I love my friends' kids. I love strangers. I love so many people. So of course
Mhm.
I could love these kids, and of course so when
Yeah.
people somehow people sometimes have a very funny narrative, like when I had my baby, my first baby, and I had her very soon after we got married, like literally 9 months after. And two ladies came to me. One lady came to visit me after I had her, and I think she was trying to be supportive, and she said, uh, I bet you want to just run away. And I was a bit like, why would I want to run away? And she came from a similar situation. She married someone with a couple of kids, and she was single. And she said, when I had my baby, I was so filled with joy. It was the happiest day of my life. All I wanted to do was just run away with my child. And I somehow, because it was her experience, which I
Um,
respect, like I'm okay
yeah.
with having that experience, she somehow thought it must be my experience. And so
Hmm.
she was talking to me about it, like, come on, you could tell me. I know it's in your heart. You could tell me. And I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, no, I don't want to run away anywhere. I'm okay. I don't want to go. And I also didn't have that experience of like being crazy excited when I had my baby. I was much more I didn't have those kind of big feelings. I was more like, I like her, but don't take her. She's good. Like, I'm not crazy. It's not my happiest moment of my life.
Yes.
So I think sometimes people try to be helpful by saying, like, I understand I went through the same thing. And it's like, well, it's similar in detail, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily similar in our experience. And that's fine. So, and then another woman came soon after I had my baby. And she said to me, it was also very funny. She also recently had her first baby. And she said, come on, there's no love like a mother's love. and
Hmm.
and I didn't resonate. I really didn't.
Yes.
'Cause I really, the honest truth is, I didn't have that experience. I liked my baby, like of course I
Yes.
liked it, but I didn't have this overwhelming feeling of love. I just had a much more, like,
Contained.
contained kind of love. And she said, "Come on, I know you like her more than you like Akiva, who's my oldest son." And
Yes.
and I thought, no, not necessarily, because I really liked Akiva. I had a relationship with him, and he was in my
Yes.
world and in my life. And this was like a new baby who just came into my life, and I haven't yet had that relationship with her, you could say. And she
Yes.
said, "Okay, come on. I know you can't say, but I know that it's how you feel." And
Yes.
I was like, I can't show you or prove to you how I feel, and I don't need to. But I kind of thought to myself, I don't have to feel anything. I could just feel how I feel. And I have room for this baby to love her, and I have room for my kids to love them. And it doesn't have to be a comparison. So, no, kind of no, having a clarity around that really helped me to be okay with how I feel and not think I have to be different than I am or pretend that I'm different than I am. But I think people try to be helpful and, try to be supportive, and sometimes come with their experience thinking, well, that must be everyone's experience.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's such a great point. And it just points to that they say that the grief is like a fingerprint. No two fingerprints are the same. And that, often we project our experiences onto other people. But as you're saying, everyone's, and even that lady's, there was nothing wrong with it. It just
mhm.
wasn't yours.
Yeah.
And that's kind of important to know. I think it's an important thing to know across the spectrum
Mhm.
of when you're helping someone with grief. I know for me in the Shiva, it was always a bit grating when people came and tried to project their experiences. You wanted them to just be with yours, in terms of the nechama, not
Mhm.
to tell
Mhm.
you, we know how you feel because, we lost our grandmother or whoever. Um,
Mhm.
you mentioned something about and I'm not sure if you had thinking about what Ilana would think or not, but a Rebbitzin said something to you that kind of helped you feel okay with like
Well,
regard.
there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure on us. And Rebbitzin Weinberg, late wife of Rabbi Weinberg, Nach Weinberg, was very close to me. When I was working here when I was the nanny, she came a lot of times to visit Shao and Ilana, and she just took a liking to me. She really appreciated me, and she really kept in touch with me, and we just had a really nice relationship, and we had a nice relationship for many years after that. But she really supported the idea of Shao marrying me. And so when we were engaged and there was a very lot of pressure, she called me one day and she said, Chana, I want you to talk to Rebbitzin Karlinsky. Karlinsky she was, who worked at IAT. So I said, okay, fine. I didn't really have and I didn't know what she wanted. And then Rebbitzin Karlinsky told me, and it was so long ago, and I wasn't really properly paying attention, like in a way, like this is an important conversation. I was just kind of like, yeah, what do you want? So I don't know. I don't want to, no one should quote me on the details because I wasn't really, from what I remember, I think she said that she lost her husband either 2 months or 2 years after she got married. She was very young, married, Rosen Karlinsky. And she there was pressure on her to remarry. And she felt a lack of loyalty, like I can't do that, like he's my husband and I can't marry someone else. Like she felt she was struggling with it. She really felt it was a betrayal. And then some rabbi came to her and showed her a source that says that there's no nechama in Olam Emet. It's a world of truth. It's a world of perspective. Souls that go back home don't have anymore the petty egoistic mind that we have in this world. And she said, so when you're in a place of truth where you really have a lot of perspective, you want your wife to be happy. You want her to live her life for her fullest and love and build a home, build a family, and give of herself in that way. And so he said, there's no nechama for a spouse until until his spouse here is found happiness. And she said, I got married after that, and I just wanted you to know that. And she said it with she so carried it. You know what I mean? When sometimes, Terry, someone shares something with you, but it's so like they just own what they're saying, and it affected me. I didn't have so much thinking at the time. But it was so clear what she said, and I really heard it, and I heard the truth of it. It made sense. Like, I can't prove it to anyone, but it felt right. Like a world of truth, we have different kind of ways of seeing things. When we have perspective, we don't see things like when we're petty and personal. So that was really helpful. And it kind of kept me very grounded in terms of competition or jealousy or this was like, it was just, no, she's her and I'm me, and there's room for everybody in this family.
That's beautiful. I love that. Just really love that story. So let me ask you, coming back to your children, you spoke about that woman visiting you and saying, like, kind of almost presupposing that you felt differently about your new baby. Is there a difference for you? And again, of course, this is so individual. In bringing up children that weren't your own and your own, did you find that there was any difference for you?
It took me, I've been in this relationship now 20 years. So I've been parenting the kids for, I've been around for a long time, or it's all relative, but long, kind of been around. And I think that it's changed and developed my relationship and understanding with that over the years. So in the beginning, for me, I was young, and I guess I wasn't as confident, and I didn't have my own ideas yet, and I was still a young person. So when I first married my husband and had the kids, I really just almost took the approach of slotting into what was already there. So we stayed with the same schools and the same neighborhood and the same kind of way of life in a way, and almost out of like respect for Ilana and Sean, what they were building. And I almost kind of walked in terms of, let's just continue doing what's been doing. So really, I didn't come with my own ideas. I just followed what was there. And it was easy because it worked really well for my kids. They were all in school. It just worked well. There was no challenge there. And as I were having little tiny kids and babies, well, it doesn't matter because it's very, when you have a 2 and 3 year old, it's just very simple. I started to see some differences when I had to make decisions of where I'm sending my kids to school. I started to be like, 1 minute, I don't want her to go to Beis Yaakov, for example. I started to see, wait, I don't have in my heart the same ideas here, the same derech. And I do think, and I don't know why this is, but I do think with my kids, I don't know, I felt with the older kids, I always felt like I'm here to do my job it's like a privilege and a pleasure to be assisting them on their journey, to love them, to support them, to educate them. But it kind of felt like it's not really all my responsibility. I'm in partnership with Shal, I'm in partnership with his late wife, I'm in partnership with God. And I kind of felt like I have to do right by almost all of them, more than right by me. It's like I had to do right by the kids and right by that. And so when I started making my own decisions for my kids, I didn't have the same feeling. It felt a little bit more like I had to have my own mind. I couldn't just do what was being done. I had to think for myself. And so I started to, and it was difficult because my husband was raising a family, and I've been supporting that of a certain derech. And now I'm coming in and I'm like 5, 6 years down the line. No, I want that type of school, not this type of school. So it was a bit of an adjustment. It took a little bit of adjusting on his end. It also I had to get more and more clarity as I developed and matured and was bringing up the kids. These things developed with me, so it never looked like I'm sitting here in perspective after 20 years and I could look at my journey. But at the time, it more was a moment to moment to moment. You kind of in it, so some areas it would be very clear, and some I was trial and error. And so, but what I look at when I look today, and I'm much more confident today and I'm more developed today, I had a different derech actually. And I really raised the kids a little bit different sets of kids. We had one that went through one whole school system that's pretty different to the kids that are going through a different system. And I think the older kids did really well with what we did. There was 4 of Charles and Alana's kids, and the 2 older ones did really well. And I see it confused a little bit my other 2. Now, if I were to redo it, which you don't get to redo, but it just gives me more understanding of where I'm at and how we work. I wish I had the confidence and clarity that I have today of just doing what made sense to me, because I'm their mom now. And actually, you have to bring them up your way. You can try to bring them up somebody else's way because it kind of doesn't work. They're not there anymore. So in a funny way, if I were to advise someone who said, how should I parent kids that are not my biological parents, or I come in, I wouldn't say this as a black and white, but I would say, don't be afraid to do it your way. Don't be afraid to educate them how you see the world, because you can't do it a different way. It's hard to try to do it a way that doesn't resonate. You don't want to go to a school. I found it really hard when I would go to school. I was uncomfortable. I didn't feel so comfortable. Well, that makes it harder for the child. Where I was comfortable, I could parent more easily. So these little things that in hindsight, I think that's interesting. And but we did our best, and it's been a learning curve. It's not straightforward. It's not black and white. I do think when I look back after so many years of bringing up the kind of, in a way, two sets of kids, but we really brought them up as one set of kids, because we really, our feeling in the home was you're a family. We love, support, and take care of each other, and there's no difference between any of us. But I do see a difference with parenting. Number one, with the confidence of the parents. For me, I had confidence, but I have way more confidence with my own kids, like
Children.
way more confidence. Uh,
Yes.
and also my kids, my older kids, are a little bit more naturally insecure than my birth kids. Like my biological kids are just not this, they don't have the same insecurities that,
Yes.
and so the parenting's really easy, because
Yeah.
it's like you say you're doing this and they get mad or reactive, and you just, there's no, doesn't matter. It's, you're
Yes.
clear and they're clear that there's, underneath all that, there's goodwill and good intention and love. And I do think that even though we're lucky and we have an amazing, strong and solid relationship and trust and rapport, and we really always had that, it's still a little bit different. And I think for me, that's been the big difference, is the confidence in parenting, with no worry about how they're going to feel or think. And to me, if I were to, I I don't know if it's possible, but
Yeah.
I wish I wish I could not see a difference. I wish I could not have, I wish I could have the same confidence, because it would have been of service to the kids. Because as a
Yes.
parent, my role is to educate and to guide and to direct, and do it obviously with good feeling and love and understanding. But when you're worried to say the wrong thing, and you don't want to upset, you sometimes underride and undermine what you know needs to be said. And I think that's, for me, been the area that's been a challenge. And I've been on a learning curve with it for many years. But when I look back, I could see how um, that's an area that makes it more tricky.
Yeah,
Um,
I so appreciate that. And what you're saying is, it's interesting because I think a lot of parents struggle with that, even with their own kids. They
mhm,
almost feel that they're second guessing themselves. Are they going to be unhappy with me, etc.? And they
mhm,
don't just feel free to parent from what feels right in their heart. And obviously, the
mhm.
child picks up on that. And you're saying that's going to be exacerbated when you're bringing up kids, as you said, that you almost feel like you're in a partnership with. They're not only mine; they belong to all these different partners. We got to make sure, but it just sounds like it's just a journey, and that you couldn't have
Mhm.
got there till you got there. And I
Yeah,
think you just can't get there till you get there. And
yeah,
they were meant to come and meet you at the point where you were at. That was their
yeah,
journey.
yeah.
So
And sometimes it made their journey harder, my
mm,
lack of confidence and clarity, and sometimes their getting caught up in insecurity made the journey harder, and my insecurity. So it's but there's really not much. It's like we did the best we can, and we just try to be forgiving and give people a second chance and give ourselves a second chance, and just keep going, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I know, and I mean, I know, and I've seen the journey of your children, and they're all amazing, etc. So when
Mhm,
you're speaking about them and you meet them, they're all very evolved,
mhm,
very resilient, amazing, amazing humans. So all in
mhm,
all, I think it worked out well. But
mhm,
so
mhm,
let me ask you, how do you create that balance of coming into a home where you've got, I'm assuming, pictures and memories of a person, and you want it to be your home, but there's
mhm,
so much around that's not your home. How do you create
mhm,
that balance of not saying, I recently spoke to someone who said, I told them to take every single picture of their wife and take
mhm,
her down. I don't want to see her. There was
mhm,
actually like one above their bed, and they were like, I feel like I'm sleeping with her looking on me. And they said, now
mhm,
there weren't kids in the picture, so it was a little
mhm,
bit. But
mhm,
how do you find that balance of feeling secure, like this is your home you're building, but not
mhm,
knowing this family still needs the presence they're going through a mourning of their mother?
mhm. You know, it's a good question. My broader answer to that would be knowing that everyone needs time to adjust and to be patient with that adjustment. That would be my bigger answer, of just so many human beings here, and human beings do really well adjusting, but it just takes some time to adjust. They don't adjust like from one day to the next. They do adjust, and they adjust beautifully, but you got to almost give them a bit of time to get their heads around it, to get comfortable, to work some things out, to get used to things. So I would say I'm thankful that I was very clear when I came in. I wasn't in competition and I wasn't threatened. And so I really, and I knew my kids need to know where they come from. My kids need to, it will serve me that they know who their mom was and have a relationship and a connection to that person, because it's a spiritual thing, that it's a spiritual fact in my world that we are spiritually connected to the person who brought us into this world. And if you look around today, whether it's adoptive parents or all sorts, it's like everyone kind of somehow wants to know where they came from. Somewhere, I don't know why, but it seems to be that it matters. So to me, that was like, I'm not going to change that fact. It doesn't matter how I show up. I'm not changing a spiritual fact. So let's embrace the spiritual fact, which is my kids need to know where they come from and embrace it.
Yes.
Now, at the same time, so that really helped me not be, you could say, crazy in terms of making big changes, because I was just, that's important. Now we have to find a way. It's like, so for example, I did not, Shaul took off the pictures in the house when I came in. But I didn't like that, because I was like, you don't need to take the pictures off. We're not ready for that stage. I didn't feel in my heart like I can't have these pictures. But I wasn't even, I wasn't like I should or shouldn't. I just was like, no, we don't need to make it didn't look to me like we have to make those changes. That was not what was important to me.
Yes.
To me, what was important is that we build a connection, and we start to build just a nice home. It's not about me or them or who or what. It's just, let's just have a nice family life. And
Yes.
with that, and the pictures, I put some of the pictures back. There were a couple of pictures I put back. I knew there was a family picture that was a big masterpiece, like a big main piece. And I thought, no, don't take that off. That's like what goes here, so I put that there. And there was another small picture that I was like, it's a beautiful picture. You could put that here. My daughter had a picture of her father and mom at their wedding on her bedside table. And
Yes.
I wasn't so comfortable with that. It was a little bit too in my face, I suppose. And I would sit with them at night. I didn't
Yes.
like it. And so I
Yes.
actually, I told her, like, I'll put it away for you, but I don't want it out here, but I'll put it away for you. And so I did move that. And it wasn't a big deal, because also all very much how you come about it. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It was a bit like, I did it in a more subtle way.
Yes.
And she was 7, and she wasn't, she may, even if she had a thought or reaction around it, she's 7. We're not going to have a fight about it. Um, so I think I did that. And again, it just worked out. If I were to get reaction, maybe I would stop and think about it, but it just worked out. But mostly I was like, we don't need to be afraid of this thing called their mom. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's their mom. And we just have to figure out how to work it all together with us. So,
Yes.
but as I got in more confident and matured and more comfortable in my role, and there was more trust and rapport, and my kids were growing up as well, I took off the big picture, because it was not our family anymore. We had more kids, and this wasn't the family. We had a new family. And
Yes.
so, again, very subtly, we just replaced it with an upgrade picture. But
Yes.
that was after a good couple of years. And then, funnily enough, I'm in a new home now, but I moved into the home of my husband and his late wife. And again, I had no thinking about it, because I just was happy. I in that time in my life, I was just happy to move into the setup and just work from there. But we moved about like 15 years after we got married, and I haven't put up in my house here pictures of Shal's late wife. I haven't. My
Yes.
my older kids are out of the house,
Yes.
and I never felt I need to put it back for some reason. Now I don't have a problem with it, like and I just didn't feel like I need to put it back. And so I'm not even. I don't think there's a right and wrong. kind of
Just what
going with what
feels,
works and what feels right, and not to be afraid just because there's a picture now doesn't mean there'll be a picture next year, or
yeah.
doesn't even have to be there's going to be a picture in 20 years. Like you will work it out, but giving people time to adjust and just not be afraid and get used to it and give people a chance to everybody work together, sort of thing, I think really, really helps. To be
Yeah.
patient, just be patient and let human beings adjust, and they adjust with a lot of goodwill, but we can't rush the process.
Well, I think that's so wise. I mean, obviously, you had an incredible amount of wisdom coming into this that not many people, never mind so young people, have, which is incredible and probably why Shal gravitated towards you. But I love the way that you said, because often it feels like that picture somehow is getting in the way of my ability to create a presence as a security and feature in this house. It's like the
Yeah.
things that look like they're getting in the way, and you almost were not interested. It didn't look that way to you, and that allowed you, therefore, to focus on what really mattered, which
Mm-hmm.
was building the connection, the rapport, new memories, new life for this family.
Mm-hmm.
And so just very, very wise advice.
And Terry, I want to give you. I was thinking just to give you. I want to give you three examples that I think they talk to a certain direction that points to something more universal, even though the detail is going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Go
So
for
the
it.
first one is when I soon after I got married. So my oldest son was 11, and I was saying something, we were saying like go to bed or something, and he was like, no, I'm not going to bed, and I was like, you have to go to bed, and we having this back and forth, and he's like, I said, come on, just listen or something. So he's like, don't tell me what to do, you're not my mother, you know. And he
Mm-hmm.
kind of was, I guess, whatever, testing or saying. And
Yes.
again, I was so blessed because I had a clarity. um I had this clarity of, and I said to him, I am your mother.
Yes.
I didn't give birth to you, but I'm your
Yes.
mother. Because a mother is
Yes.
somebody who loves and cares and guides and is there to look out for you. And that's me. I'm your mother. I'm
Yeah.
always going to be your mother. You get to decide whether you want to be my son, but
Yeah.
will be your mom. And
Beautiful.
and it was really a clarity that I had, because I really, in my heart, I knew, like, to me, a mom is not a thing. It's a role. It's a role. Like, I had a mom. I gave her hell when I was a teenager. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And it's like, um, and it's not about your necessarily even your relationship and your feeling for them, because you could
Yeah.
hate your mom, but she's still
Yeah.
your mom.
Yeah.
Why is she your mom? Because she is taking care of you in a certain way.
He's,
She's taking care of you.
yeah.
She's committed to taking
Yeah.
care of you in whatever way that looks. And it's not about how you feel towards that person, and
Yes.
whether you gave birth to them or whether you, I don't know, pay for everything for them. But I knew, like, my role is to look out for you. And we could call that mom. We could call that, I don't care what we call that, but that's what it is. So we're going to call
Yeah.
it that. And it really, I think, really settled. I actually think it was a very settling experience for him, because I think people want to know that they're cared for and you're committed to them and you look out for them, and especially kids. And whether we use this term and that term and we get tested with these little words, you want to look to, what's my role and where am I coming from? Like, why am I here? What am I doing here? And then you kind of stay there and not get lost in all the little details that people get lost in,
Yes.
the
Yes.
words.
Yeah. That's a beautiful example, by the way. I was actually going to ask you about that. I cannot imagine that it wouldn't come up for a child who, in the situation that the children are in, because kids say mean things when they're upset with their parents. They just
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But they'll say it in a different form. But this is a great one if you've got that to pull out your back pocket,
Yeah.
you're not my mom. So it just sounds like such a natural. And the fact that you didn't take it to heart as anything and went, no, I am,
Yeah.
must have been incredibly reassuring for
Yeah.
the child, It's a very, very beautiful
I
moment.
remember at the time, because I was so clear and it just came to me. I had a clarity. I was like, it was a gift, but I
Mm.
saw the impact. I saw
Yes.
he settled,
That
and
helps. Yeah.
and it was like, that was the end of it. He was our oldest son. So it was really important, my relationship and my rapport with him, because I always felt with that kid, he sets the tone in the family.
Yeah.
And he was so grateful when I came into his life, because he hated not having a mom. He was
Yes.
one of these kids that hated not having a mom. He hated the instability that created. He hated people
Yes.
bringing in meals, or his father kind of not being, he didn't like it. And when we got married, he was just so grateful that there's stability again.
Yes.
So, and I always felt very grateful for that with him, because I felt he created a good tone for his siblings,
Yes.
Um,
Beautiful. So
yeah.
what's the next one? You said there were three.
So then the other one was, when my son got married. And I had such a hard time with, I never felt I'm standing in Alana's feet kind of shoes. I always felt like I'm just like, if she came back, like I'd be like, there you go. Hopefully I've done a good job. I didn't like, I really felt like that. Like I kind of felt like we're all one big family. I mean, I'm kind of here to help,
Yes.
Then when Akiva, my oldest, got engaged, and I couldn't get myself together with walking him down the aisle. I was really struggling with it. I somehow felt suddenly, that was my first time that I really lost my bearings, where it was like, I'm I'm not supposed to be doing this. Like she's supposed to be doing it. Like she wanted to be at her kid's wedding, and it like almost looked like a sad thing that I'm there instead of her. It was such a time, I guess, of someone's life where you're like, the parent should be there, and then it was me and not her, and I felt very uncomfortable in the role. And you really helped me with that. And I don't know if you remember our conversation, Terry, but I was so anxious about it. I couldn't think about it. I was just like, every time I thought of the wedding, I was just like, I can't do it. um and I talked to you at the time, and you just told me something that has stayed with me since, really helped me and just kept me grounded in so many other situations since, which was, because I said I shouldn't be the one walking him, his mom should. And you said, but don't you think that if that's what should have happened, Hashem would have made that happen? And clearly we think it's what should have, who should walk him down the aisle, but Hashem put you there, so clearly it's not what we think. It's God's will that you do it, not Ilana would do it. Otherwise the details would be different. And I heard the truth of it. Like I heard the truth of it, that like we need to get aligned with God's will, and then we flow. When we have our own will and it's out of sync with God's will, we have a lot of trouble. And when
Yes.
you said that, I just knew the direction was right. I knew in my heart, this is right. Like it's true. This is God's will, because it's happening. It's what is.
Reality.
Our idea is just an idea. It's not the reality that we're right in front of us. And it just helped me kind of center, like, okay, put on my big boy shoes and just walk. It's hard for me, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's beautiful. I don't even remember that conversation. I mean, I remember you struggling with it, but I don't remember me saying that. But it's so beautiful, because I always feel with this, that it's like a neshama accepts, like you're shown everything that's going to happen. Like, you say, you're going to walk these children down the aisle, we agree to it till we're all on board. And then we get here and suddenly we don't have that perspective. We don't see. It's almost like we feel like this isn't right, when really this was always our tikkun, this was always our journey, and it was the perfect journey. So it's just generally in life so nice to get in touch with reality, rather than to resist it. That's
Terry, with that situation, it's like when I think of I don't know, I think the point of, we have so many opinions or ideas about that we made up over the years of how things should be, how they should look, how they should be, maybe because of customs, traditions, conditioning, habits, how things should be. I think people have such a hard time when it's not their idea that's being illustrated or demonstrated. It's different. And I think what really, I think so helpful, and again, in times like that, I can't tell you, but these little people in my life, it meant so much to me. Like these little helpers that just, I don't know, just know that it's not easy, just give you that reassurance or that trust. Like I remember at Akiva's wedding, one of Ilana's friends, but she's always been so kind to me. She's always brought me such a nice feeling, like always such a nice gesture when I had any interaction with her in such events. And she just she just she just was there, but with support. Her feeling was of
Was
such support, and it touches my heart, like, still when I think about it, because it's not easy to fight against all of those beliefs and ideas and visions that we have been brought up in or created over the years. And for me to walk, say, my son down the aisle, that's going against a lot of stuff that goes on in my head and the feelings because of it. And you almost have to kind of go in it, and you just need to put all that away so that you stay sane.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and to have just people on your side that just don't make assumptions of how you feel, and they don't think they know how you feel, but they just trust you, like they just almost rooting for you, like they
yes,
just give you a hand. And it's like, I don't know, it is so, I can't tell you the strength and the healing that has done for me over the years. So I don't know, I just think it's helpful for people to know it's not easy to be in these kind of places because of all of that, because of all of that creation that we have of how it should be
yes.
different.
Very much so. And I think like what I really appreciate speaking to you and why I wanted to speak to you is because my impression is that when a family's gone through a loss of a mother, of a wife, etc., everybody naturally feels supportive and empathetic to the family because they're going through grief and loss. But the
Mm-hmm.
person who walks in often doesn't get that kind of support or empathy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like they're the outsider and we don't feel that for them. They haven't been through the loss. So they
Mm-hmm.
often don't get, the support and the love. And you're saying it's a difficult space to set in. And you really rose to the occasion, but it's difficult and it's complex, especially at different milestone points.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, the people who are able to give that to you, how much it mattered to you. So I just think it's a good lesson for all of us, that sensitivity.
But
So what?
also, it really matters to the family. Like, if you really want to help to be there for a family that goes through loss, like if you really want to be helpful, love the people that are there to love and care.
Yeah, yeah,
Because to me, if you're in a position of loving and giving, that's your position, whether it's a wife or it's a mom. Both of those roles are the role of a giver and of someone who loves and cares and gives. So
absolutely.
to strengthen someone in that role strengthens the entire dynamic. It's powerful. It's not a little thing. And to also to give it a hard time, to kind of go after it,
Yes.
is the family, the
The
family.
family feels that. Yeah,
Yeah, it takes a toll on the kids and on the spouse. And so people sometimes, in really wanting to help, they're really unhelpful. But from
yes.
a good, their intentions are good. But if we could step back and see, well, one time, what is really gonna happen? What we care and we love and we want to be loyal to that late wife. Let's see how could we really help? And just coming from that spirit, I think we would be stepping back a little bit, maybe from our own personal hurts, and just rise above it for something that creates good. You know.
Yeah, beautifully said. And what was number three, Han? You said there was.
Um, Yeah. So Terry, you go. Let's see what you have to ask me next, and then I'll see if it's going to come up in one of your questions, maybe.
Well, I was wondering if you were referring to what you had shared with me when Akiva had his first child and wanted to name it after Ilana.
Yeah. So that was also a big learning for me. So again, in our family, you would assume, like, my husband wrote a book about his late wife. He talks about her. He gives lectures. It really is okay with me. I'm usually very comfortable, and I don't mind. I mean, I don't necessarily have to sit there and listen for the whole hour. I don't mind to. I'm happy
Yes.
to. I'm never uncomfortable or feel like it shouldn't be spoken near me. I really don't mind. But I don't necessarily feel like also I have to be there for some reason.
Hmm.
So I'm not like holier if I do sit through it and bad if I don't. It's just I'm happy to, but I'm also okay not to. Um, so there was an understanding, I guess, in our family, like that their mom's fine and there's no problem and all that. And then my son called me and he said, I'm having a girl. Do you mind if I call her after my mom? And I was like, oh, of course, absolutely. Like, I wouldn't even think not. Like, of course, you thought you I want you to call her after your mom.
Yes.
It's an amazing thing to be calling her after your mom. So, um, he calls me. He says, "Oh, we called her Ilana," and I don't know what happened to me, but my whole I my whole head went crazy. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, Ilana, that's so in my face. Like I suddenly, I don't know, I just was overwhelmed. Like, oh my gosh, that's so insensitive. That's so inconsiderate. That's just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't, I was just in a state. I didn't, and a minute after that, I had this thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm thinking this. And I remember telling myself, I'm never going to let anyone know I'm thinking this because I was so ashamed. How could I think that he shouldn't name, how could I think that this is a terrible thing to do? It's a good thing, but in my experience, it felt like really terrible, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And it was a very funny thing. During that whole week, people in the community, really, again, well-meaning people, were call, hi, Mazel Tov, so nice. Another Alana Rosenblatt, that's so lovely. It's just funny how people are.
Yes.
It's just funny. I'm glad they're comfortable and they share that. But it was like I was in such a, oh my gosh, such a state. And then my husband had a nickname for his wife. And it's so then he says, oh, we could call her Lani. And I'm like, oh my God, like,
Oh my gosh.
so weird. Thought of the name, her face, like her presence comes to mind. And I was like, I don't want to live with her presence in my mind, like in my face. I have
Yes.
no problem with her,
Yes.
but it felt intrusive.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, for about 3 days, I was like totally disconnected. I just went into my own world, and I thank God I knew at the time, like, it's an adjustment. I have to say it's okay. Don't make meaning. Don't go crazy. It's not reality what you're experiencing. It's just human what you're experiencing, and let's see how we ride it through, kind of thing.
Yes.
So thank God I knew that. Thank God it saved me because I was thinking at the time, imagine I didn't know that. Like, you start making up stories, you start causing all this drama, you start disconnecting and thinking that this is forever the experience that you're going to have, but really it may be the initial experience that you have.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I went to pick up my kids from school, and again, just, I don't know, sometimes, Terry, like, these people that they just wise and they just helpful. And it was a funny thing. She said, oh, Chana, how you doing? And she just was more like an older lady, and she was just had a wisdom, she didn't assume, but she checked in.
Yes.
Oh, I heard Akiva had a baby, how you doing? And I was like, I don't even believe it came out of my mouth. I was like, I'm having such a hard time with the name. I couldn't believe I said it.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, don't worry, it'll change. It will change as you get to know this child. The
Association.
association will change. She said, I had it with my father-in-law. She gave me this whole sweet story of how she
Yes.
did it. And then she's so sweet. And she said, don't worry, it's just be patient. It'll change. It was
Yes.
so
You have.
helpful for me. I felt hope. I felt, okay, if it'll change, that's fine. I'm not scared of this. I don't have to worry about this. It's nothing. It'll change. Like, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And after that, I started to settle a little bit. And like 2 weeks later, and it took me 2 weeks to even say something to Shal because I was so traumatized from even the whole thinking about it.
Thinking that.
And I said to Shal, I'm so mad at Akiva. And he said, why? And I said, I can't believe he called his baby Ilana. It's so selfish. And he was like, but he called you and asked you. I was like, I know. He says, but you told him to. I said, I know, but I didn't know that I'm going to be upset. Well, I'm like, I know. Anyway, it was very funny. But just
Yeah.
being able to share that with him
Yes.
helped me because it was already, I wasn't so frightened by the whole experience that I'm thinking
Yeah.
and feeling these ways. Anyways,
Yeah.
it was very sweet. My son, he's so cute. He calls me like, so since then I started just settling. I went from 100 and a lot of emotion to 98 and 90, just slowly. And my son called me like 2 weeks after that and says, Mom, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. It's because you're asking me now, not 2 weeks ago. He said, I just have a feeling that you're not okay. What's wrong? And he said, are you okay with the name? And I said, yeah, I'm getting used to it. So he said, I went to Rabbi Berkowitz. I was so worried and I wasn't sure. And I went to Rabbi Berkowitz and I asked him, and he, it's so cute. When I was in my upset, I was like, he's so selfish. He's so inconsiderate. So mean to do this to me. Like, he's so mean. Why? And I was so upset with him. And then he calls me 2 weeks later and he's so sweet. He's like, I really wasn't sure. And I went there and I did that and all these things to try to really be so thoughtful. It's so sweet. But I could have never known that, Terry. Like, I could maybe live my life never knowing that about Akiva and always thinking he's mean and selfish and ruined my life,
Yes.
And I just want to say to this, it took me really, honestly, like 2 years to just completely not have that thinking. Completely. I wasn't taking it seriously, but it was there and it affected me. It wasn't nothing. But it also humbled me because it showed me, gosh, you just don't know why people feel what they feel, react how they react. I could have called 10 friends who would have shouted at me for thinking like that. And I could have called 10 friends who would have been sympathetic. It depends on how they saw it. And so I saw, like, it's not like a right way or a wrong way. It just was how I responded. And I was thankful that I could be patient and kind and let life show me something else. And not my mind dictate how I'm going to experience things. Even though my mind had a say, because it's not something that I created, it came to me. I knew, like, that could quiet and life could create something different if we don't make this the only story, So that was so helpful, but also it was very difficult for me. My daughter called me about a year later. She says, Mom, I'm having a girl. And it was funny. I was battling. Should I say something to Shifra or should I not? Should I say or not? And I didn't want my kids to not name their kid Ilana. I didn't want my thinking to get in the way of their connection and relationship with that. But I also didn't want to go through it again. It was hard for me, So Shifra called and she said, I'm thinking of what I'm thinking of calling her Ilana, but I'm thinking to call her second name Ilana. She's just talking to me like randomly. I'm thinking maybe a second name. And I was like, yeah, please do that. I can't believe I said that. I was like, no, don't listen to me. No, don't do whatever you want. No. And she's like, why? And I was like, no, it's just hard for me when it was like Ilana, but it's fine. Like, don't worry. And she was sweet. She ended up calling her second name. And again, whether she wanted to or not, or would or wouldn't, I didn't want to get in their way, but I also was like, it's okay if it's hard for me. It's okay. When she said, no, I'll call her second name. If it's easier for you, I'll call her second name. And I was like, hey, thank you. Cause I was like, I just don't want to have that reaction again. Because it came as a surprise. I was like, I don't want to be tested again, But anyway, so that's just an example. It really showed me, it humbled me because it made me feel we can't judge why people feel and experience what they do in any given situation. And we just what's helpful is to let them know it's okay and just be kind for them as we look to heart, which is we want to be connected, we want to be loving, we want to enjoy each other. Well, let's settle down with this because that's the wrong direction and look towards love and supporting each other rather than getting into the stories, So anyways,
that's beautiful. And I love that because people, I'm sure, are going to be having that along the way. A lot of times where things are going to trigger them and are going to bring up these things and they're going to feel so guilty. And as you said, a sense of shame about it. And so I think it's one thing you're saying, support people, tell them it's okay. But the same thing is a narrative to yourself, seeing it's okay. Like, this is how I'm feeling. I didn't choose to feel this way. If I could, I'd feel another way. And giving it time, as that wise lady said to you, it allowed you to see, okay, this won't be forever. So be a bit patient with yourself. It's been amazing. Is there anything else before we end that you'd like to?
I think what's really helpful that I see a lot with people. But Terry, do you want to end or do we have a few more minutes?
No. I'd love you to. If there's anything else that's on your mind, we have a few more minutes.
So one thing that I see that I think is really helpful is so within when and I don't know, my husband has a lot of clarity on this. Like, Charles just has a ton of clarity around this. And I don't know how and why and where, but he's very like, if you make the relationship good, you give the best gift to your children. It's if you have a mom and dad who are happy, you're going to do better off all together as a family.
So true.
Now I want to tell you something a couple of like just little things that show up that I thought would be worth bringing up just for people to kind of re-look at it. So, a kid came to me who lost her mom. Her dad was remarrying. And she said, I'm really sad that my dad's remarrying because I'm going to lose my father. And I said, how are you going to lose your father? She said, well, and it was interesting. She said, since my mom died, like he calls every day and like we like go there for Shabbos and like he comes to us, like, and he's just available and he hangs out and da-da. And she's like, and now he's going to have a wife. All that's going to end.
Yes.
And something about what she said bothered me. I was like, I couldn't work it out at the time, but I thought about it and I was like, it was on my mind after. I was like, because I knew it's not, there's something off there. So I walked away and I thought, so funny. If I look at I recognize that thinking of I lost my father. I recognize I lost my mom because we got married, because especially Akiva, who was quite insecure and close to his dad, when his mom passed away, he really was very needy of his dad. He really was insecure and he really relied on his dad's time and attention. And when we got married, Akiva had to make an adjustment because it went from his dad being available to suddenly his dad being with me. Yeah. And Akiva definitely went through an adjustment there for a little while where he really had to kind of shift over there. But I was thinking about it with regards to my kids, okay? My little kids, my kind of biological kids, me and my husband always prioritize each other and spend lots of time together. So we'll go on a walk or we'll travel or we'll go out or we're always together.
Yes.
So there's no such a concept in any of my kids of like, mom took dad away from me or dad took mom away from me. It's like mom and dad are a pair.
Yes.
And they don't belong to you. They're their own unit. You get to be in their company or benefit or enjoy, but it's like we're doing our thing and you get to kind of enjoy that we do our thing because that's an amazing home. And I was thinking about that compared to what this kind of thing that Akiva was going through. And I thought, yeah, but that was not natural what Akiva went through. He lost a mom.
Yes.
And now his dad, now he went into an unnatural space where his dad is his
anchor,
his person. And also his dad was not natural, that he wasn't in a relationship. He was kind of tending to kids all day.
Yes. Yes.
And I was thinking the natural is mom and dad's are units.
Yes.
And kids don't need to so I called this girl back and I said, I have some thoughts about what you said. And I was like, the truth is, it's good that your dad will stop calling you. And it's good that you won't be going to him for dinner every Friday. Because that's not the natural way with kids and parents.
Yeah.
You want your dad to have a partner who he has dinner with her and he hangs in the evening talking to her. It's not lechatchila. We benefit. We love our parents. We love, if I go to my parents' house and only my dad's there, it's the best thing ever because I get my dad all to myself and I don't have to share him. Yes. But the truth is, when we step back, it's natural that they're pairs and we want that for them more than we want them for ourselves. It's quite selfish. I was thinking kids could be quite selfish in that they want their parents, but actually you're not losing a parent. The losses that you have that set up to begin with. You want parents to have a beautiful life.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that. Because, I mean, it started off in Gracious with God saying it's not good to be alone, So something at its root is off, we need these people to be together. That's the shlemus and then the shalom bayis, and then you're going to get the benefit of that, So that's beautiful. Very insightful.
That was a little kind of thing, an introduction, but so Shaul, his whole, and Ilana said to Shaul before she would say, the best thing you could do for your kids is give them a good relationship. And so he really is very clear around that. And he has this thing, don't win the fight, win the relationship. And it's funny, Terry, because when I was first married, and he would say that a lot of times, don't win the fight, win the relationship. Went over my head. I was like, I don't even know what it means, But now I have a real appreciation for that. It's like a perspective. It's like, go bigger. Don't get
Yes.
caught up here. Go there. And so there's a lot of wisdom in it. But he really is committed to his relationship 100%. And he
Yes.
really will tell you, I'm not committed to my kids. I'm committed to my relationship.
Beautiful.
My job is to educate my kids, but my relationship is what matters in this, in our job. And
Beautiful.
so all the years, anytime you had, I'm not getting along with a kid, I'm having a hard time with a kid, they're he's sometimes very protective, more protective of his older kids than of our kids together. I think he feels sometimes more bad for them, more guilt, more bad, and so
Yes.
sometimes he could be a bit softer, or with our kids, we could be clear together. No, that's
Yes.
what's
Yes.
happening. And with there,
Yes.
I could be clear and he could be a bit
Your little
softer,
stuff.
not
Yeah.
so his normal self. But at the end of the day, and I hear lots of marriages that they're blended families, that they come in with, no, our kids are priority. We have to prioritize the kids. And if we do that, then everything will flow. And it's like, no, you prioritize the relationship. Everybody else adjusts to the relationship.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
for me, it's been
Beautiful.
a saving grace. I don't think I would make it this far. Or
Yes.
maybe I would have made it, but it would have been much harder, much, much, much harder, if not for Charles' absolute clarity in whether he agrees or not. He'll be respectful and trusting, and be like, I don't understand it, but I will go with you.
Beautiful.
And so I just want to give you a little example of something that came up the other day with someone, because I think it's very universal. This is a blended family, and it's divorced and mixed family. And she called me and she was quite upset because I don't know, she wanted to change something in the house, and one of the kids from the first marriage didn't want her to do that, and she got into a bit of conflict with the daughter, and the father was like, let's just say, leave the picture on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we want to protect the daughter.
Got it.
And the mom was like, no, I don't want to. Like, it's my house. I'm not comfortable. And
Yes.
the father was like, well, she has to be comfortable.
Yes.
And created what it really created. She's like, I moved out the room, and I'm not, all this drama.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, we think we're doing good justice for our child to look after her feelings and where she's holding.
Yes.
I get it. I'm respectful of that. But it's like, that's small-minded. You got to go bigger. It's like, okay, if we're together, and this is Charles' biggest thing. It's like, kids are resilient and kids are good at adjusting.
Yes.
Funny enough, adults have a harder time to adjust than kids do,
Sure.
And if a mom is in a good feeling and in a good place, everybody else is going to do better for it. And if a mom is struggling or feeling insecure or threatened or disconnected or dislike or resentful, it's going to just be a hard operation for everybody.
Beautiful.
And so this kind of perspective of our job with our kids is to educate and to nurture and love, but we are stronger doing that when we are united. And it doesn't mean we agree. We often don't agree. We don't agree. We see it differently. But we give away the argument for the sake of nice feeling and emotional stability within the relationship.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And thanks so much for sharing that, because, I mean, first of all, again, like so many of the other things you've shared, they're such universal lessons for parenting in a marriage and a home in any case, because I think people struggle with this, even if you don't have the circumstances you're describing of a second marriage and coming in. Often people think it's to, especially a mother, it's to the children, and the children are affected because that relationship, as you're describing, is the cornerstone, is the foundation. Everything works out of that strong relationship. So and then way more so for coming into a second marriage. And you can see you could have way more doubt about that. Almost like these children are vulnerable, they've lost their... So there's two things you're saying. You're saying, no, the same principles apply, that always apply. That advice between the two is going to ripple out. And then you're also bringing in another learning point, which is also like such a steadfast belief in the resilience and the ability of children to adapt. You don't even have to say that to your children, but just the feeling of living that, your children pick up on that. They see that you've got confidence in them. that they can handle and adjust, and that's incredibly, just very secure. Kids feel secure in that environment. So
And I want to end with one thing, okay? And this is a learning curve that I'm on now. I've been on for a bunch of years now. But it's a funny thing. It's like, and it just talks again to so many adjustments through life in all dynamics. Like I'm sure you're going to have what you're going to resonate with what I'm saying in your little family, but in our family, in a blended family, you just have it with additional insecurity and maybe, or maybe extra or not. But it's like we kind of got it together as a family and we kind of did our thing and we kind of were a unit and we understand each other and we rolling well together and it was working. It was good. And I could say like that was really, it was a journey, but it was easy. And then your kids start getting married and new people come into the dynamic with their judgments, their perspectives. Like you suddenly have a kid and their wife is like, oh, she's your stepmom, now you're biological. They come with their thinking. They come with their thing, and they haven't been in the family. They don't know what you've created together or where they don't know. And just like this, and it was majorly a major learning curve and adjustment for me to almost create again and then again. And like where I'm holding now, because the first time you walked in once, you had to make an adjustment once. And everybody just fall in place and you get a good run for 10 years where everyone just we're family and it's Christmas and there's nothing you did all the work in the beginning. And what I found is like one kid gets married, okay, start over. Another kid gets married, okay, we're starting over again. And another kid gets married, because you getting married and all this outside influence comes with their ideas about you are the mom, you're not the mom. And it's very it's sensitive, it's like when you have in-laws, it's like they don't see you as the mom sometimes because they think a stepmom is not a mom or and you think, oh, I've been with this child since she's 2 years old. She's the only mom she's ever known. And no other mom in this house, but it's like, you don't get treated like a mom or the respect of a mom because, well, you're not the mom because someone thinks that they don't, and it's innocent. It's just misunderstanding and it's just so nuanced, but it's been a huge adjustment learning curve. Like I had to really find a lot of grounding and I had to really do a lot of work and really going to what I know and not taking things to heart and seeing the innocence in people and really being patient and all that stuff to kind of almost adjust again and again and again, it's been really hard. It's been hard. And I'm not kind of at the end of it, but thank God, I'm learning and on the job, but I just wanted to mention it because again, it's like I don't know.
It's good to mention because you don't expect it, and then it almost takes you by surprise. It sounds like then you feel, what's wrong with me? Like I thought we kind of done this, we'd integrated into, but you're essentially integrating new people into the family unit, and as you're saying, the family unit's more complex, so we almost have to start from ground and re-educate people around this is how we roll. But it's a reintegration, and you're almost saying it like it can take you by surprise, and then
there's more insecurity. There's more insecurity. If let's say you are I don't know, you are now, there's a new family coming, and then but you're kind of not looked at as the mom because there's an assumption that you're just not the mom. There's going to be all this way in which you are very innocently treated different. And if you're insecure, it's really hard. If you're insecure, you start taking it personally and to heart and all these, silly little examples, but you really, even as silly as my daughter's getting married, please God, and, they're writing an invitation and they want to put under the name, there's all different ways in which you put the mom in an invitation. You could put it under the name or you could put it here. And it's like, there's what I want to kind of share is be sensitive, like be thoughtful when dealing with a blended family, because it's so many human beings involved and we have to be sensitive to everyone. But it's like the more we come with like a respect and a love and a goodwill of including rather than getting petty into kind of less helpful ways of thinking. I just think it makes a difference. So that's that. And thank you, Terry. I hope we didn't go on for too long.
First of all, I could talk to you for hours. The amount of wisdom that comes out of you is like, bar no, there are not many people. So I'm sure people are wishing for it to go longer, but maybe we'll do a part 2 one day. But thank you. I mean, thank you for sharing and being so open and so real. And I can't imagine it's going to resonate with so many people in different ways. And they're going to say, yes, I'm not crazy for thinking that, and I shouldn't feel bad about thinking that. And really, really appreciate it. Such an important topic. So thanks,
Well,
Ran.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Terry, for the time. And it's always so nice to see you. And thank you, Terry.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Have a good rest of your day and lots of love.
Thank you. Thanks, Ran.